Hey guys, what's going on? This is your old pal CHH. This whole video was a ruse just so I get you guys here so I can talk about the Hayride films. Okay, I'm kidding. Okay, guys, so I want to talk about something that is... when I go to look at my comment section, it's pretty clear, it's pretty evident. Now, it's not just on YouTube, it's Instagram, it's whatever social media sites I see where these things are being discussed. Is Lionsgate biting themselves in the foot by just doing theatrical runs right now of a lot of their 4K announcements? One of the big ones, of course, is The Devil's Rejects. Now, I actually read something from somebody from Lionsgate. People started sending me this. One gentleman sent me this. And then after about that time, maybe an hour later, I started getting this all over the internet. People were sending me this. So we're going to talk about this, as well as the Saw films. So if you're not aware of what's going on, let's talk about this. Last week or earlier this week, I think it was last week, Lionsgate announced that they were doing The Devil's Rejects on 4K. Now, that's exciting. That is Rob Zombie's highest praised film out of anything he's done, clearly over the Halloween films, as well as House of a Thousand Corpses, which breaks my heart. But people were very, very excited until they started looking on the web pages about the release itself, and it shows that it was R-rated. People were like, wait a minute. Why is this not the director's cut? Now, Lionsgate before has been the company to always do, it seems like, uncut versions, director's cut versions. Now, this was something in the 2000s they were the kings at. If it was Saw, when you got it at the house and you popped that DVD in, it was going to be uncut, a director's cut. I think there are even some limited versions of some of them. Like, I think there's actually like a director's cut of Saw 3 that's kind of a rarer release, but regardless, there's uncut versions of every one. And they would flaunt it. Every time you saw those DVDs at Blockbuster back in the day, or when you bought them at Best Buy or Walmart, when you bought Saw, it would have that big letters uncut on the front. And that became the way people knew those films. And you got to remember, guys, in the 2000s, if you're old enough, which most of you should be old enough, that was my heyday. And I tell you guys, the way I think about those Saw films is the way I watched them at home. Yes, I saw them in the theater from 3 on up. I saw every single one of the Saw films in the theater from that point. But the reality is, when I saw them at home, that's where they really made their mark with me. I would see the uncut versions and things like that, and I got so accustomed to that. So that's the way I know those films, as well as Rob Zombie's films. Rob would even talk about this in interviews back in the day of like, when we do the home video version, I'll be able to tweak and make the edits I want so I can have my version out there. It was no different with his Halloween films, which Lionsgate has the Rob Zombie films now. I don't know if a lot of people know that. Go buy a copy of Rob Zombie's Halloween on DVD at Walmart right now. Go look at it. It's going to say Lionsgate on the back of it. So they have those movies now, and they're going to be the ones that'll put them out on 4K if they happen. Now, that's a whole nother ball of wax with the Rob Zombie films, because a lot of fans prefer the theatrical cuts, but on the home video front, they were always available more so than anything as the director's cuts. Some releases are just the director's cuts. That's a whole other ball of wax we got to talk about. But the question is why? Why are they doing this? Well, we do have an answer for one of them. We have an answer when it comes to The Devil's Rejects. Now, like I said, people started sending me this, and this was really something. A guy named Cliff Stevenson, who apparently works at Lionsgate, was requested to talk about this on a Blu-ray.com forum. This is something people were like, Christian, did you see this? Did you see this? So let's get into this, guys. This is the Blu-ray.com forum where Cliff Stevenson commented on why Devil's Rejects is going to be the theatrical cut only, and apparently there's not going to be a director's cut down the road on 4K. All right, this is this gentleman's answer to what's going on with The Devil's Rejects. I'm going to read this whole thing to you guys. It's pretty interesting, so let's listen up. I don't really have anything to do with this title, but here's what I know. It's not going to be an answer you guys want to hear, but it's the answer. The release is the R-rated theatrical cut and not the unrated cut that was done for video. The reason for that is actually very straightforward. They couldn't find the elements needed to do a full 4K reconstruction and restoration. Titles from this era are really hit or miss when it comes to archiving and element preservation, especially for a studio like Lionsgate, because Devil's Rejects was shot on 16 film but finished on a 2K DI, they likely weren't as concerned for the original film elements as they would be now. Because the DVD and Blu-ray were created around the time of the film's release, it was all done on video for that purpose, and they never thought they'd have to go back and do anything higher. but they looked everywhere for the original elements to properly put out the unrated cut back together, and they just simply couldn't find them. No boutique label would be able to do better given the same resources. It's not that nefarious plot to screw people over and only release the theatrical version so they can re-release it unrated later. The catalog and restoration team at Lionsgate are some of the smartest and hardest working people in this business, and they do the best work possible given each film's unique circumstances. I'm in the early stages of work on another horror film from a similar time, and the Lionsgate team went to incredible lengths to find and restore the movie's original uncut TIFF negative. They do work when they can, but sometimes it just isn't possible. By the way, I'm going to give you an update on what I think that is. I can't confirm it, though. If the lack of the unrated cut is a deal breaker for you, I completely understand, but don't skip it thinking there will be a better unrated release down the line. There won't be. Now, having all said that, that's all I have to say. Don't come back at me with questions about why they didn't this or how come they didn't that or trying to poke holes in my answer. I don't know and I don't care. What I know is what I've told you, and also that all of this was done with the participation and approval of Rob Zombie. Now, what's this other title that he's working on? Do you guys remember last year when I had somebody DM me and say, hey, I was working with Eli Roth on something, and he told me that they're doing a 4K of Hostel. That could be what that is, so we'll see about that. But anyway, what an interesting statement. I mean, I think a lot of people, including me, were under the assumption, okay, they'll do an unrated version, maybe something down the road, but apparently not. Now, that answers some questions, but I still have more. Now, this gentleman says, don't ask me about it, so I'm really just putting this out there. Maybe I'll get somebody to let me know. Well, what about the Saw films? Are you telling me that all those elements it's the same situation? Were the elements used at a certain point and then the negative materials were just gone? Like, what's the deal with that? What are we doing with those? Because Saw, I think the first Saw was uncut on 4K. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But it looks like 2, 3, and 4 are theatrical. Maybe that's why they held off on doing 2 right after 1 came out. You guys remember Saw 1 came out like 3 or 4 years ago. And then nothing for a while. Now 2, 3, and 4 come out. Maybe that's the case. My thing is, I just wish, and I appreciate this guy coming out and saying this, I really think you can curtail a lot of negative reception from people online if you control your own narrative. If these companies control their narrative and they come out and they say this. I think they don't think that has much merit to do. I, on the contrary, believe the more open and upfront you are with your audience about why this release is the way it is. Let me give you an example. And I'm friendly with these people, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't criticize a release if I didn't think it was the other way around. TerraVision, they've done a release where the director came in and said, you know what, I don't want to HDR this movie. Let's not do that. So they put out a title without any HDR. And they said, listen, we did it this way because the director wanted it this way. Okay, thank you. Because if not, it just looks like, well, why didn't they do that? How could you be so silly and not do that? They're open and upfront about that. I think that stuff goes a long way. So, Lionsgate, if you're listening, what's the deal with these theatrical cuts? A lot of people are saying, nope, I'm going to wait for an unrated version of the Saw films on 4K. Is that what's going to happen, Lionsgate? Let me know. Let us know. Like, be open and honest. If you say, listen, guys, it ain't happening, then we know. Then people can know about it. But we gotta get more open about this stuff. I mean, why is it that people have to dig and go in forums to learn about stuff like that? This should be out in the open. You guys should have open discussions about this, because guess what? A lot of people that want to know this information, probably way more than these companies realize. And it's just something that I think we really need to, go the extra effort to be open and upfront about. So hopefully we'll get some answers on the Saw films. My guess is, as bad as it sounds, the only thing that makes logical sense to me is maybe they wanted to do uncut versions or director's cuts for the sequels, but when they couldn't find it, they held off and looked. And then that's why finally they're like, okay, let's just do 2, 3, and 4 now instead of doing 1 each year, because that's what I thought they were going to do. After 1 came out a few years ago, well, clearly they're going to do 2 next year, but it never came. So we'll see, guys. We will see. But, I mean, with Rob Zombie being being approving all the stuff that they did with that release, I mean, he was sharing it and stuff on his Instagram, so obviously Rob knows about it at the very least. So I don't know, guys. I'm sure this is probably bad news for some of you guys. Maybe it'll change some of your minds if you were going to pass on Devil's Rejects. Maybe it won't, but at least you know. At least you know. So that's it, guys. I just wanted to talk about this because it is kind of frustrating, and it sucks, you know, but we have no control over elements being lost if that's the case. So let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. How important is it to you with these movies from this era? For me, it's pretty important because this was the era of the director's cut and uncut versions. The reason is all these movies that were going out in the theater, we knew they were coming out on DVD. DVD was huge at the time. It was the way people watch movies at home, and they knew they could get that director's cut or uncut version for horror. It was so prevalent. So to me, it's really important, and I think it's something that needs to be discussed, and the company needs to be open and honest about with their audience. Because I think a lot of people will say, okay, you know what? If you can't find it, it is what it sucks. But thanks for letting me know. Now I don't have to worry about you pulling the shaft on me 6 months later and announcing the director's cut. You know. So there you have it, guys. That's what we know now, so hopefully we'll get more answers about the Saw film soon. But thank you guys for watching this. Let me know your thoughts in this down below. This is your old pal CHH. God bless you guys, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.